Rest in peace, Al Baril, a true hardcore legend. .com.
Smash that Patreon button.
.85 south, a hardcore punk rock podcast. What's up, everyone? We are back and talking hardcore, helping out. You know him, you love him. Live from the Rocky Steps. It is the king of the windmill. It is Kevin Hare. What's up, dude?
What up?
What up, what up? So everyone, you know what this podcast is about. It's about getting pretty nerdy about hardcore, and we're going real niche this time around. And what we're going to do is we're going to do two tournaments. The best Japanese 7-inch from 1981 through 1985. How's that for Micro?
I have a file under Kev Hare music, so I don't listen to it.
And then we're going to bust out a tournament on the hardest 90s demo. So like the best of the hard demos of the 90s. So you know what we're talking about. Hatebreed, Blood for Blood, Bulldoze, all that stuff. It'll be good because this is a deep dive on this stuff. I hadn't heard half of this Japanese stuff, and like this was a pleasure doing. So we're going to dive into it, and let's just see what happens. Kev, what was your overall thoughts on this?
Overall, I liked doing both of the tournaments because, especially with the Japanese stuff, I've been kind of diving into that, like the same era, the same realm of stuff over the past 6 months to a year. I've been kind of going hard anyway. So this gave me a chance to check out some of the stuff that I've either already been checking out or kind of haven't gotten to yet. And then also with the hard demos, it was a way to kind of revisit some of the, or even for the first time, some of maybe the earlier, lesser known stuff from some like all time bands. It was interesting to see other bands, how they came out strong from the very beginning. And then there was some stuff that I never heard before too, that I thought was pretty cool. So I liked doing this a lot, and it was kind of a funny contrast to be doing both at the same time too.
It is really like the yin and yang, right? Like one is tougher and one is like kind of, I don't know, that early Japanese stuff is very niche. Although the people that love it, love it. The reason why I wanted to segment the Japanese stuff how we did in 81 to 85 is because it's generally thought of that like Burning Spirit starts in 1986. And nowadays when people talk about Japanese hardcore, that's generally what they're talking about is like the Burning Spirit stuff, especially Bastard, Deathside, Nightmare, Paintbox,
Judgment.
Judgment. Yep, of course.
Which
Maybe
I finished yesterday.
I know.
I finished
you
the full collection.
Dude,
yeah, I'm very hyped.
That is what's up. Yeah. I mean, no reason why. Maybe one of the best hardcore 7 inches of the 90s. Definitely top 10. So let's get into it, dude. So we're going to start the Japanese tournament first. The bracket is up on the website 185milessouth.com if you want to see it. I'm going to try to squeeze it into the Instagram. I don't know if that worked or not yet. And then it'll be up on the Substack either today or tomorrow. So you can check out the full bracket there. If you want to fill one out and send it in, you can. I'll put it on our website at some point. And then just before we get started on this, I want to say, we are doing this for the love because we love this music and we're putting respect on it. So if we mispronounce anything or if we get something wrong, I apologize in advance. You can always email me 185milessouth@gmail.com and I will put the corrections on the Substack. Some of this Japanese stuff was hard tracking down where the bands were from, so we might get that wrong. Of course, we're going to get the pronunciations wrong, but, like I said, it's all out of love. And the last thing I wanted to say is shout out Axe to Grind for their 80s Mosh Madness tournament. That was sick, and I hope you guys finish it at some point because, I'm rooting for Battalion of Saints to go all the way. But let's jump into this Japanese stuff. The first matchup we have is Abaradako from Tokyo, their 1983 Flexi, going up against, dude, the big dog and one of the favorites in the tournament is Gas Tunk out of Tokyo, their self-titled 7-inch from 1985. What do you think, Kev?
So both of these I was familiar with before to at least some extent. Abaradako, I think, is very cool. It's one of those things that grew on me a lot. The first time I listened to it, I thought it was a little bit weird. But kind of as it goes on, like there's these weird dual vocals that aren't on every single song. The thing with a lot of this stuff is that we talk about how with a lot of this early stuff, there is no norm. And so people can just do whatever they want. And that's really on display here, where you kind of see some similarities between bands, but also like there's no real template. So they are just doing whatever they want. And I think that this is a really good example of that, where this is kind of all over the place, but like some of the tracks are really, especially the second and the third one, are just really recognizable. You hear them 2 or 3 times and you're like, oh yeah, there's that song. So overall, like I thought that one was really good, but Gas Dunk, I don't know if you are familiar with the wrestler Jun Kasai. He is maybe the greatest deathmatch wrestler of all time. And I was listening to this Gas Dunk record, and the song came on, the first song, Devil, and came on, and I was like, this song sounds familiar. And then I never realized that the Jun Kasai theme song was a cover of Gas Dunk. So beyond the fact that this record is great, it sounds really, the production is pretty outstanding. The songwriting is kind of like a different level than some of this other stuff. It's real cohesive and it sounds great. But regardless of all of that, Gas Dunk is going to be my pick because of my love for the great Jun Kasai.
Yeah, I'm taking Gas Dunk as well. This is an all-star band, and it's wild to think that you already have an all-star hardcore band in 1985 in Japan, right? It's ex-members of the Execute and also ex-members of the Cums. So it's just legendary. But talking about Abaradako, this is an interesting band because they stuck around a long time and kind of like morphed into something different. I don't really know how to explain it, but this is pretty straight hardcore, although like the singing is a little like theatrical, I guess. I don't have a better word for it. This band put out a studio record as late as 2008. So that's like pretty insane. And then also the guitarist of this band was in a band called Typhus that we're going to talk about in the next round. The singing is wild, and it does take like a minute to lock into on it. Although it really works when they go mid-tempo, I think. So like the second song on here is like a mid-tempo song that like almost could have been off like the rudimentary P9 7-inch, and like so the singing really works with it. But this is like very Japanese in the way that like a lot of it sounds triumphant, and I think that that's like a main component of like the Burning Spirit stuff. I think maybe people lean into the Bastard record the most these days, and that is a pretty stripped down straight hardcore record, but a lot of the other stuff like tucks in melody or risks, or it like sounds triumphant in a way. And this definitely has some of those elements, but it's going up against Gas Tunk, which is like one of the favorites to win this whole thing. Kev talked about Devil being a pro wrestling intro song. And it's wild because like when that verse kicks in, that's what it sounds like. You know what I mean? But it sounds like old school pro wrestling. Like it sounds like, someone's coming out like to Starcade 86, like to this music. You know what I mean? But really like the star of the 7-inch to me is that song Shout. That guitar hook in that song is like one of my favorite pieces, like maybe in the history of music. Like they build the whole song around this little guitar hook and keep circling back to it and circling back to it. And then they build the solo off it. And then they still circle back to it. And it just never gets old. It's like this beautiful, intense, like piece of music that's like so gnarly and so melodic at the same time. It's like the ultimate juxtaposition, like that you're looking for, and you just get magic on the wax. You know what I mean? So that song and the song The Eyes off the first Gas Tank LP are probably my two favorite songs by them. But yeah, Gas Tank wins this hands down. So we're in agreement. I should say this is me and Kev making these picks, but if there's a tie, we do have a tie break friend that we can call. Let's go on to the next round. We are putting up Guy. They're from Hakata, Fukuoka City. Their Extermination 7-inch from 1984. And they are going up against Typhus out of Tokyo, their 1981 Flexi. Let me give a little backstory on these bands. So Typhus, they are one of the OGs of Japanese hardcore because they put out a live demo in 1980. So that's extremely early. And really this 1981 Flexi is extremely early too. Them and the Stalin are both super early. So we got to put some respect on the Stalin. We're going to talk them soon. The live demo that they put out in 1980, I think it leans more punk, where this is definitely hardcore punk. So there's that. And also Shin from this band would go on to play in Gauze. And then also Akio from this band would go on to play in Abaradako. Guy, they started in 1981 as the Swankies, and then they switched their name to Guy. And then in 85, they switched back to the Swankies and put out an LP that Kev loves and I am still trying to get into. So that's where we're setting this up. Kev, what do you think about the mashup?
Yeah, so a little bit more on Guy too. They, I think they were all high schoolers when they started, and I'm not exactly sure if they were still in high school when they were Guy, but like they were still pretty young. The Swankies reissue, it comes with like a history of them, and one of them is named Beer, at least who was in the early Swankies. But yeah, I like Guy quite a lot. I mean, you can kind of hear, so the Swankies are really weird, where like the LP is really rough and the vocals are really unhinged sounding, but there's this weird melody that you hear in it, and that's kind of what makes it all work. And you kind of start to hear it on the Guy record. I mean, the last song is my favorite song on it, and it is Blood Spit Night. That's the last song, and that ends up being on the Swankies LP, Very Best of Hero. And I mean, that's the best song here, but the rest of it is still like, you can kind of hear it a little bit, but it's also really unhinged. The way the vocals kind of float over the music and stuff, like it sounds really separated from it, but at the same time, it kind of really works just because like the vocal choices on a lot of this is just kind of, it's definitely not what you would hear from US hardcore, UK hardcore at the time. So it's very distinctive Japanese punk sound. The Typhus record, I think, was cool, but it was a little bit more cooler as kind of like a, hey, this is the first thing, as opposed to something that was, good or great. I kind of thought that it just sounded like a lesser version of the Guy record, whereas, Extermination was kind of the sound in like its, I don't want to say final form, but kind of peak form. So that's what I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to go with Guy just for that last song that ended up being on the Swankies alone. But the whole thing is pretty great.
The Guy is like a more fully formed sound, but it's also 3 years later, although that doesn't matter here in the context of us just putting them head to head. The last song on the Guy record is the Mid-Tempo Banger. And yeah, I mean, it's a standout track, although they're all pretty good. The guitar is super fuzzy and blown out, and the vocals are totally manic. Like Kev said, there's no American hardcore bands like that are sounding like this, or UK really, like that have like this super extra vocal. I mean, there are some vocalists in America that are like taking big risks. Like you do have Jello, right? And you do have HR that do wild shit with their voice. And then you do have that that fucking guy from the Crucifix, like whatever he's doing with his vocals. But like, I don't know. This is very Japanese, and it's sick. And they do have distinct choruses, so that's something nice. And the drumming is excellent. There's lots of fills, and the toms are mic'd really well, so you can hear all the fills. So that's great. But the Typhus is like, there's just something about that original shit that's like always so great. It's like when you listen to the SOA 7-inch, there's a lot of stuff that like is technically better, right? Like the Chain of Strength 7-inch is like technically better than the SOA 7-inch. But sometimes like I just want to listen to SOA like that. Straight, raw, no frills, not that creative, just the original shit. Cause like you don't have to be creative because you're the first one playing it. You know what I mean? Like there's something to that. And this Typhus record reminds me of just straightforward hardcore, kind of not in like the 81 SOA way, but maybe in a way like the stripped down Dwarves songs, you know, from like the 90s record, like the whatever the fuck, they all have naked chicks on them. Whatever, like the Go Into the Drugstore album, like whatever one that one's called, you know, like those straight fast songs, like Let's Fuck and all that. Like it kind of reminds me of that. And so for that, I'm going Typhus, which means, Kev, we got to phone a friend. So we're going to call up Jeremy Smith and see what he thinks and who is going to the next round.
Hello?
Hey, Guy Extermination or the Typhus Flexi from 1981?
Guy Extermination.
All right, Jeremy chose Guy, so Guy is moving on to the next round. All right, next matchup is going to be Gudon out of Hiroshima, their 1985 Flexi, going up against the Stalin out of Fukushima, their Nothing 7-inch from 1983. Now, Gudon is very notable because that's Zigyaku's first band. That is the guitarist that went on to do Bastard and Judgment. And the Stalin, super OG band. They put out an EP in 1980, and they put out LPs in 1981 and 1982. They have a bunch of 7-inches. I chose this one from 83, which is like their 5th or 6th 7-inch, but I thought that the first song was one of their most hardcore songs, so that's why I put it in the tournament. Kev, how you feeling about this matchup? What do you think?
So this is a really funny comparison, I guess, between both of these because they are probably more than anything the most opposite things that are matching up against each other on this, because Gudon has like really muddied production. It very much feels like a DIY type of effort where everything kind of blends together. You can't really pick apart different instruments or anything. It just kind of one muddled together sound, whereas the Stalin has like really great production, especially for the era, but I mean, kind of great production for any era. And it's way catchier, kind of more straightforward punk stuff. So that is really interesting to compare. Gudon, the first song is called Cock, which is just very funny. But I think overall, I'm going to go the Stalin just because I found the Gudon just kind of a little too muddy and hard to kind of pick apart anything for it. Whereas the Stalin is just two really good, catchy, clean sounding songs. I mean, they're one of the most recognizable, like famous of the Japanese punk bands. So like they're an all timer, and that is, you know, it's pretty obvious here. And if you're telling me that, right, Gudon, or telling anybody that Gudon is going to go on to other bands, you can also kind of see that too, because you can see the pieces there, but like it'll be more fully formed later. So I'm going to go the Stalin. To be honest, though, the Stalin is a band that I like, but when I listen to it, like I don't love it as much. So that's one of those things where I want to dive in a bit more. But Nine Chalks Terror covers on one of the records too. So the first time that I heard Stop Jap, I was like, oh, there you go.
Yeah. The Gudon is like super noisy and echoey and lo-fi, and it sounds almost like a practice room recording. And so like, you're right. I mean, the Stalin, they've already done, you know, LPs by this time, and like, they probably have the budget to record, you know, and like, so that is like a big difference. I didn't love this Gudon. I loved almost everything that we covered on this side of the Japanese bracket that we're going to do today, outside of, I didn't love this 7-inch, and there's one song that I hate that's still coming up. But this first Stalin song is so good. Like that riff just like gets in my head. I kind of hate the phrase earworm, but like this is that, you know. It's not like your typical hardcore riff, but like it just gets in my head and it is aggressive and gnarly. And then the second song is kind of a bonus track. Like the 7-inch is buoyed by that first song, but that second one is just kind of a sleazy rock and roller, and it's pretty killer. So I'm going to Stalin too. This one was pretty easy for me. And people out there that are more familiar with the Stalin, let me know if you think I chose the right 7-inch for this or not. Cause like that was a thing with this. It was kind of hard when bands had multiple, like which one to choose. So I did my best here, and this is pretty fun to talk about. All right, let's go on to the next matchup. We are going to put Confuse out of Tayashu. Their Nuclear Addicts 7-inch from 1984 is going up against Guys out of Tokyo. Their 7-inch We Wait for Song of Guys that came out in 1985. Let's get into it. Kev, what do you think?
So, first, Guys, I had never heard before or heard of it, and I was really surprised by it. It's really catchy. It's good driving stuff, kind of rocky. It's really similar to Gas Dunk and the Stalin. It's more in that lane, but I was kind of really surprised how fully formed it was, and that it was really good. And I listened to this one a lot, going back and forth, trying to decide which one I was going to go with. But Confuse is the full package. I mean, without even like listening to it, that cover art is one of the all-time coolest covers of all time. Like black and white, it's got the cool early 80s font of like, it's got a real distinctive logo, and the high contrast picture of just like the band looking insanely cool with like the craziest hair possible. Like before you even listen to the record, you kind of know the vibe, and it just is really cool. And then the whole thing is just really fast and raging hardcore. Like this is kind of one of the more straightforward, fast, raging type of things on the list. Like there's not as many wild decisions as some of the other things. It's just kind of real raw sounding and real, like it doesn't sound like Discharge, but you can tell like it was more in that lane of type of punk and hardcore. So, you know, the Guys was cool, like I said, but I think that Confuse you kind of hear more going forward, and it's kind of has its real own lane, and it's kind of, I don't want to say it's more important because that like implies that I know it was more important, right? But like it still feels kind of more of like a landmark type of thing than the Guys. So that's what I'm going to go with Confuse here.
I think it's like the fact that they're going with like that full blown out fuzzy guitar. You could say that it's like influential on stuff like Disclose, you know, where like they're really going for like a blown out sound and having that be a big piece of their band. This is a pretty good matchup in the way that like the Guys is like very Japanese. Like it's very Gas Tunky in the way, like you said, like they take a lot of risks. They do stuff that is like really distinctly Japanese, you know, although that first song sounds like there could almost be like a little Italian influence in there. Like it's again going back to like the singing being like almost like theatrical or dramatic in a way. And the Guys has absolutely killer drumming. The Wild Boys intro sounds a lot like Maiden, and this 7-inch is just a journey. Like it almost has like an LP vibe to it, even though it's just a 7-inch. So again, like if you're a fan of Gas Tunk and you haven't heard Guys, like I think you should check it out. Also, you know, Kev called out the cover of the Confused record. The cover of the Guys record is pretty sick. And it's like, dude, what does it even mean, man? Like, it was like, what? I don't know what's going on, but it looks sick. But the Confused looks very sick also. I think that it's hard calling something from 1984 derivative, but the Confused works because it is derivative. Like, I think that they are pulling a lot from like the early like UK stuff, especially Disorder. They're putting out 7-inches in 81, I believe. Chaos UK, the LP is 83. I don't know when the 7-inches are, but they're on one of the Punkin' Disorderlies, which I believe is 82. So like that stuff had probably already hit Japan at this point. And so I think that Confuse is pulling a lot from that stuff, although they do two different fast beats. So like sometimes they do the straight double time beat, and the other time they go slightly faster and go full scissor. And it's strange in the way that like when they go scissor beat, it's a little faster, but it's not significantly faster. It's not like they're going to like infest or straight ahead or something like that. They're just going a little bit faster. And honestly, when they do the slightly slower double time beat, it sounds a lot better in my opinion, because like then it has like the meat to it. And you know, that song Hate Is at War, like it's a great bass driven song. And so like doing the double time with like that nice bass tone kicking through, like it really works well, you know, when they're doing like that more fast paced UK 82 beat. But this guy's one I had never heard before. And in the spirit of this project, I think I am going Guys just because it was a nice surprise. And I think I'm going to go back to it more. So means we got to phone a friend again. Let's go.
Hello.
Hey, the Confuse Nuclear Addicts 7-inch or Guys, We Wait for Song of Guys 7-inch?
Confused. Nuclear Addicts 7-inch.
All right. Jeremy took Confuse. So Confuse is moving on. Let me mark it. And we are on to the next matchup. We are matching up Crow out of Osaka, their 7-inch Who Killed Dove from 1985. That's going up against Deadless Muss out of Shizuoka, their 7-inch I Will, also out of 1985. Now, Deadless Muss is a band where I had to decide which 7-inch to do because they had two that fit into the 1981 to 1985 time frame. They put out a Flexi in 1984, but I did like this one a little bit more, so we went with it. Crow, everyone knows them. They're one of the most legendary Japanese hardcore bands of all time. They put out a record as recent as is either 2022 or 2023. They put out that 12-inch I, which was really good. So this is a band that like stuck around and has never embarrassed themselves and are just like one of the great bands, you know, and maybe best longevity ever, if we're being honest. You know, I mean, my favorite record from them is probably Bloody Tear from 2005, even though it has like the worst first minute of music there ever has been. So, which I edited out so I can listen to on my phone without that fucking minute of feedback. Kev, how do you feel about this matchup and who are you going with?
So, first, Deadless Muss, I'd never heard that before too. And I think that it's really good. There was kind of another surprise for me on this one where, you know, it's got cool guitar parts. The one thing that I notice, or not notice, but like one thing that some of these records have and this one have too, is we talk about the interesting decisions. And I really like how a lot of these bands contrast like clean singing with like backup vocals over the normal vocals. It sounds really haunting. Sometimes bands do it different ways too. Like sometimes they do more high pitch, almost like fake voice type of singing over it. But this is kind of just more like kind of droning on backup vocals. And I really like that too. I thought that was really good. So this is a record that I'm going to come back to and I want to listen to more. But Crow, I think is, like you said, they're one of the greatest Japan bands of all time. I think also from a US perspective, they're a little bit underrated at this point. You know, people talk about bands like Bastard, Fronted, Judgment, etc. And I think that Crow is right up there with all of them. They have, you know, Bloody Tear, like you said, is classic. Last Chaos is earlier than that, but like 20 years. But like that's more of the blown out, fuzzy kind of disclose type of thing. And then they got a lot of cool 7-inches and stuff in between in other records. So I just think that they're really awesome and a bit underrated at this point from like I said, from the Western perspective. So the Who Killed Dove, I think it's a cool, like you can really see where they're going on it. You can hear like, it kind of combines both like UK 82 stuff and US hardcore from the time together. And that's kind of what makes it sound Japanese here. It's not necessarily sounding like outwardly Japanese like some of the other stuff like Gaston Stalin and that type of stuff, but like it kind of, the blend of it all together is what happens. And the vocalist, who I believe is also named Crow, his vocals are, you know, really unhinged and desperate, but kind of in a more melancholy type of way, in a more like just kind of agony type of way. Like we talked about that too about that Apocalypse record that they just reissued, which is kind of in between eras of Crow. And you can kind of hear that really early too, where he sounds really agonized and twisted. And that's kind of what makes them stand out. I mean, Crow is just a very dark sounding band. All of the artwork is all in black and white, and the logos and the artwork and everything about it is just really dark. So yeah, I think that they're just an awesome all-time band. And if the Deadless Must won against a lot of the other stuff, I probably would have picked that. But against Crow, it's not really a contest for me. I got to go with Crow. They're one of my faves.
I mean, I sung the praises of Crow like on the little intro here. And I had never heard Deadless Must before this project. In fact, I'd never even heard of them. So what's up? Put the poser hat on me, apparently. But I don't think that this Crow record is that great. Like they're going to come into their own. Like Last Chaos is only a year or two away. I think it's 86 or 87. So like, I think that they get better really quick. I think that this is pretty straightforward US hardcore. And another thing about like all these Japanese 7-inches, like I like all the solos on them. Like they're very spacey and like vibey. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's not like there's no shredding going on. It's all like clean notes and scales and good sounding. You know what I mean? And in that way, Crow is a little different. They kind of do like shreddier solos. And, you know, on this, I think on that the Goodbye song, like actually the solo is kind of bad. So the other thing is like they're so straightforward here, and the songs are kind of long. Like 3 out of 4 songs here are over 3.5 minutes, which again, all these Japanese songs are generally like longer, but like a lot of the other bands have a lot going on, and like this is pretty stripped down in a way like, you know, Confused is pretty stripped down. So like a shorter song works in my opinion. The Deadless Must, this was a wild ass record, dude. The recording is very good, except the vocals are mixed like way too high over the top of it, which is an interesting choice. But again, like what makes a lot of this Japanese stuff special is like, these are risk taking ass bands. Like there's so much YOLO on this stuff. It's like, you kind of just gotta settle into it and let them go for it and take the ride. You know, I think that's like why a lot of people connect with this stuff so much. Is just like, these are people that like don't give a fuck and just go for it. You know what I mean? And so that is an interesting decision on that mix. Another thing about this record is the drumming just sounds like it's going to fall apart at any time. A lot of these 7-inches have really good drumming, and this one doesn't. But it like gives it a lot of charm, kind of like that first Possessed LP. I love listening to it because it just sounds like it's going to fall apart. Like the drumming is very, I don't know, rough, I guess. The singer has super throaty, snarled vocals, you know, and it's strange because I think Kev alluded to it, but like sometimes the backups here are like tuneful. And so that's kind of like the opposite of what we're used to in American hardcore, where like, you know, a lot of times like you have a normal singer and then the gang vocals are like, you know, like they're tough sounding. So this is strange in the way that like the vocals are gnarly sounding and the backups are giving you like that tunefulness. Like you don't ever really get like the backup sounding cleaner than like the singer for a gang. You know, I guess you get it for a ooh or ah, but not for like a straight up gang vocal. And these songs, they kind of follow a formula of like going fast and gnarly and then going melodic and then going gnarly again. So like they do have like a little formula, but dude, that last song, To Do Nothing, like that's one of the best songs out of all these songs because it is just so fucking psycho. Like them editing the bomb drops into it, and then that last like section where like the dude goes like falsetto. It's like, what the fuck is going on? It's so good, dude. So I'm going Deadless Must on this one, which means we got to phone a friend again.
Hey, what's up?
Hey. Crow, Who Killed Dove, or Deadless Must, I Will?
Crow, Who Killed Dove?
All right. Jeremy went with Crow, so Crow advances. Let's go on to the next matchup. We have Disarray out of Sendai, their 1984 Flexi, versus Mobs out of Osaka, Projection of an Astral Body. That 7-inch came out in 1984. And again, this is a band, this is their second 7-inch. So hopefully I chose the right one, but I like this one a little more. Disarray put out a split cassette in 1983. So this is their second release. Kev, how do you feel about this matchup and who you taking?
So yeah, I don't have that much to say about this one, to be honest. Like Disarray, obviously with Dis, it sounded a little bit like Discharge. The Mobs, it just kind of sounded like, I don't know, there was a little bit of Christian Deathy kind of guitar parts in there and stuff, but like not that much of it really stuck with me. So I think that I go with Disarray here, but like I said, I don't really have that much on either of these.
You know, the Mobs, a lot of these bands have like a super vibey, spacey intro, you know, and Mobs do for sure as well. But I wish that like went into the first song. It's kind of like it ends and then the first song starts, so they don't have anything to do with each other, which is kind of like a missed opportunity, because like you set this up like it's going to go into something awesome and then it just ends and then something else starts. This does have a good recording. The snare sounds huge. They're doing like a slow fast UK82 style beat. I think the song Stormy Nights is pretty great, and it has that killer solo coming out of like that bass break and then back into it. So the songwriting is good, but they're all pretty long again. Like they're around the 3-minute mark, with the last one being 4 minutes. But this had its moments. The Disarray, this is wild. So, you know, we're definitely listening to it on YouTube or like downloaded files, you know, and they fit 7 songs onto a flexi, which is just psychotic. So the flexi had to sound like shit. You know, so we might be hearing something that sounds better than that. This is a good recording. Guitars sound big. Again, kind of like Confused. It's like a heavy, early UK HC influence, Disorder, Chaos UK, Discharge, you know. They do have a song called Balderdash. That's a sick-ass name. And then that Bad Blood song at the end. It's a shouty, catchy chorus. It's good. I'm going to go Disarray 2. They will move on to the next round, and let's get on with it. All right, next matchup, Freedom out of Osaka. Their 7-inch Last Revolution from 1984 is going up against Zao out of Osaka. Their 7-inch The Final Agony, which came out in 1984. What do you think, Kev?
So yeah, the Freedom record, it was pretty good, but I didn't really take away that much from it, other than that, you know, some of it is a bit melodic. It's pretty basic, I think. I don't know, it's hard for me to describe, but the Zao, is that the pronunciation? Is that the accepted one?
We're taking a guess on this.
All right. So our accepted pronunciation is Zao, not to be confused with Zao. I think, you know, it's a really famous, cited record. And I think the reason why is because of just how much it pummels you. It kind of like the tones of the guitars are really loud and noisy, and there's a lot of real repetition on it. And it's kind of hard to get into too. Like it's taken me like a lot of listens in my life to kind of really get into it. And I'm still it's still happening, right? Like it's still not my favorite thing, but I'm liking it more and more as it goes on. I mean, the first song with the I Just Want to Live in Hell part is just so awesome. I think it's just real cool. And you know, this is kind of a foundational one. Like I said, it's really cited by a lot of stuff. So like Relapse even somehow were able to just put this on reissue this a few years ago. And like it's on Spotify too. It's one of the rare ones that'll be on this list that you can just go on Spotify and listen to. So I think that I'm going to go with that one, Zao, just because of how important it is, but also how just, you know, the crazy the guitar sound, and there's solos, like you were just talking about, there's solos all over this thing too. So I think that it's a pretty cool record.
Yeah, I mean, it's just straight up psychopathic, right? Like, I think that's why it's so memorable and why people cite it so much, because it's really merging like metal and punk in a unique way. You know, like it's, you know, songs about the devil and Satan and shit, but like it's inherently punk. The Freedom record had a lot that I liked, and also like some of the stuff that I didn't like. Obviously, I love the cover art. Like that's something that's super sick. Again, a super vibey intro, and this might be my favorite intro of all the 7-inches. Then it kicks in and it's pretty simple and sloppy. The song Last Revolution off this Freedom 7-inch is the one song that I absolutely hate. And like I've been listening to a lot of this stuff on shuffle, and like anytime this song comes on, I'm like, next. It's like very street punky, just repetitive and melodic and annoying. But like there is some stuff on here that is like true psycho music. Really, Zao and Freedom have some true psycho shit. Like, dude, that first chorus on the Freedom song Suicide, like when the guy changes his voice like to be like a little gremlin, and then there's that weird guitar lick on top of it, like that is wild. Like, dude, if ICP heard that, like they'd change their name to a totally sane group of entertainers. You know what I mean? Like, the fuck? It's like psycho music. And the Zao, I've always tried to like this band. Like Kev said, they get cited a lot, and I never liked it. It's a hard listen your first couple times, and then I don't know if it's that the Freedom 7-inch gets kind of boring to me, and that first Zao song is like insane or what, but like this thing finally clicked with me on like the fourth time listening to it for this project, and now I absolutely love it. Like that, I just want to live in hell. So good, dude. I don't know what else to say. Like, there's more falsetto in this though too. On Bloody Master, dude hits that falsetto part, and that shit is wild too. One of the standout parts. I'm going Zao as well, so they're going to move on. And let's go on to the final matchup. Jiga out of Hiroshima. Their 1984 Flexi is going up against the Clay out of Tokyo. The Middle East Combat Area 7-inch came out in 1984. What do you think, dude?
So the Giga record, I put this all on a playlist, so I just listened in order. And I found that it just kind of got buried in between the Zao record and the Clay record, because it kind of sounds like kind of a record kind of in the middle of those. So it was kind of hard for it to really stand out to me, which maybe isn't fair to the record, but that's just kind of what happened, because the Clay record is like pretty unbelievable. It sounds like it could be done today. Like the production of it sounds modern. The songwriting sounds pretty fully formed and modern too. It's real thrashy. It kind of beats you over the head with the riffs, kind of over and over. The way the vocals are, they just sound out. Like, I think that this record is easily going to be one of the favorites for this whole thing. It's just great. Like, I never really heard it before. The Kriegshog record came out last year, and it was cited in the write up for that record, and you could definitely hear it the way that like I said, the riffs are kind of repeated over and over and built on each other and stuff. But yeah, I think that this one is just awesome. It's kind of crazy when it's interesting to compare it to the Zao record too, and some of the other ones where, like, for those, it's kind of how the thing that stands out is just kind of how wild and primitive it is. And the Clay record has that primitive, but it's done in like a real focused way, and in a way that, feels like a lot of effort and was put into how everything sounds with it. So I think on this one, it's pretty easy. Got to go with the Clay.
It's crazy because like it's the most straightforward thing on here, but it's the hardest for me to explain because it sounds, like you said, modern. And I guess modern, like it could be any just classic 80s record or from today. Like it's insane, dude. Like I never spent any time with this before. Maybe I listened to it in passing. They have songs on that Great Punk Hits record from, I think that's 83. And those songs are fine. But like, dude, when this 7-inch came on, it was like, oh my God, it sounds so good in like, I don't know how to describe it. Like it sounds super compressed in like a great way. I love the Burn 7-inch. That's one of my favorite records of all time. It kind of sounds compressed in a way like that as well. But this band doesn't sound like Burn at all. It sounds like classic USHC mashed with classic UK, that first wave shit of like the harder UK 82 stuff, I guess, and Discharge. Like I don't even know how to describe this shit. It's like maybe it's like recency bias or whatever because I've been listening to it so much recently. But like, I think that this is one of the greatest hardcore 7-inches of all time. Like it is flawless and just absolutely perfect. It's only 3 songs. There's like nothing you can pick apart. that mosh part at the beginning of the first song is like, what the fuck? Like this could have been a classic New York hardcore intro from like any era. You know what I mean? But it's 1984 Japan and it's catchy. You know, I guess maybe a thing that like is, you know, it's made for us because they sing in English sometimes. So like we're picking up on the vocal hooks more than other stuff. Like most of the bands are singing in Japanese and like this one has hooks in English. So I don't know, maybe my Anglophile brain is like latching onto that, but like I don't think so. I just think that like this is 3 perfect hardcore songs on a 7-inch that sounds so good. You know, this is like a $300 record now, so I'm probably never going to buy it. But like, if someone has the bootleg that came out recently in the last 5 years, if you could sell that to me, I would much appreciate it. I would love to have this record in my collection in any form. So, because I just love it. And so Jigga kind of got fucked the same way that Aburadako got fucked by going up against Gas Tunk. It just didn't stand a chance. The recording on the Jigga is a little muted, but I do want to mention that the drumming is absolutely fabulous. Like that Jigga drummer is so fast and so tight, and there's good riffing on top of it. It's kind of like maybe those dudes like got the DRI records, you know, that were out by this time. But yeah, that's all I got. The Clay is taking this, no doubt. And yeah, how do you feel about this first round, Kev, overall?
I feel good. I feel like generally, bias aside, I think most of the right ones won. But it was interesting to kind of, for these tournaments, it's almost interesting to see the first round stuff, to see the stuff that doesn't make it on. Like that's the most interesting stuff. So I thought that was really good. I did see a copy of the Clay record in the wild not that long ago, but sadly I did not pick it up.
Yeah, you know, you feel good about this round because every time we hit a tie, Jeremy backed you up and pushed your pick on. So
that means that every single one of mine I think moved on.
Every single one, yeah. So you're like, feeling pretty good. So that's cool. Hey, yeah, much respect, everyone. If you want to fill out a bracket and send it in, like I said, I'll post it on the website whenever. And let us know. Hopefully you like this because we're locked in. We're doing this episode like exclusively on these 2 things, but we're going to start integrating these into the monthly episodes. So like there won't be another episode fully dedicated to this. It's just going to be a segment on the monthly episode. And we'll knock out these tournaments until we're done at the end of the year. So on the next segment episode, we'll do the other side of the first round of the Japanese bracket. So let's go on and do the 90s demos. We've been having a hell of a time coming up with what to call this. The working title is the hardest demo of the 90s, but we should specify we're not talking about like what is the hardest. It's like the best. So like these bands in the 90s would be like disparagingly talked about as like tough guy bands. Like that's what people would say, like, oh, that's like tough guy hardcore or whatever the fuck. But like these demos are sick and these bands are sick. This has always been like a style of hardcore that I love. It's just hardcore, dude. That's like where a segment of the genre went in the 90s. And I think it's important to like figure out a way to differentiate this stuff from metalcore. Like there are a few things I think you can look for. There's no like real discordant guitar parts like you would get like, you know, people that are influenced by like Earth Crisis or Acme or the second Rorschach record. I think that like the stuff that comes out of that or Unbroken, Life, Love, Regret, like the stuff that gets influenced by that stuff would be like more in the metalcore lane. And this stuff is just like more heavy and tough. And also like maybe metalcore is a little more like throaty vocal. And this stuff is a little more gut vocal. So I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like that explanation, Kev? Do you think I'm making sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest thing for this is that it's really, you know, it's really reductive to say that it's like chug hardcore, but you know, it's got real focused on, that's kind of the important part, is just kind of bludgeoning you over the head with things as opposed to kind of like, you know, letting the guitar parts breathe or like, you know, the dissonant guitar, like you were saying, like it's either it's really fast or it's really heavy. I think that that's another important thing too, is that a lot of these bands, they have the fast parts too, that kind of work into the heavy parts. And I think that you kind of need that there for it to really work.
Yeah, because that's a thing that I always thought was funny when people, were like dismissive of like some of this stuff. And now it's really funny because all this stuff is like canon, like the popular stuff of this, and like hardcore is kind of one thing. But in the 90s, it was like there were like multiple lanes and like people didn't fuck with each other, and it's like a lot of these bands like knew hardcore better than like, the youth crew bands of the 90s that were like completely reductive and only liked one thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, the fast part is something because these are hardcore bands, and like fast parts are an integral part of hardcore. In fact, it's the original thing that set hardcore apart from punk in the first place. So yeah, it's good that you called that out. What's your overall thoughts on this side of the tournament or this tournament itself?
I think that it's a cool way to kind of break out all the bands. I think that it's, like I said earlier, I think that it's interesting to where some of this stuff is bands came out the gate with Stone Cold classics, and others of them, like the stuff that they're known for later, is completely different than what is going on the demo. And I think that that's kind of the most interesting thing here.
I think it's important too to talk the demos here because the demos were so important to these bands and the barrier of entry was so low. So you spend the time, you go get a recording, but a demo, you can do a professional demo or you can just dub them in your house and you can get this stuff out. Like doing a 7-inch wasn't always easy, and doing an LP definitely wasn't easy. And doing a CD was like, damn, how we do that? You know what I mean? So like, I think that a lot of these bands in the 90s, like the demo was the backbone of the scene as well as like the compilation. So, you know what I mean? Like New York's Hardest, East Coast Assault, Harder They Come. There's a bunch like that, right? And like, so those two things combined, the compilation and the demo, like that's kind of the backbone of the scene. And that's why it's nice to focus in on the demo of this genre in this era. And it's hyper specific. Like a lot of this stuff, again, just like the Japanese stuff, I don't know how we would have wedged this in as something we could talk about on the pod. And so this made it easy. And I really enjoyed diving into this stuff, although some of this stuff is pretty long. So the nice thing about doing the Japanese thing was it was all 7 inches. So it was all like nice short amounts of music. Some of these demos are pretty long, dude. So that's something, but they're all pretty good. And I think all the matchups are good. So again, dudes, if you want to check out the full bracket, check the website or check the Substack tomorrow. But this first matchup that we're doing is 25 to Life, their 1993 demo, going up against With One Intent out of Boston, their Complete Failure demo out of 1997. And we should say 25 to Life. They're New York City, but also like there's a handful of bands that we're going to talk that like they're kind of both sides of the river, right? So it's like they're half New York, half New Jersey, and it gets kind of confusing sometimes what they claim or whatever. But yeah, 25 to Life versus With One Intent. What do you think, Kev?
So 25 to Life is obviously classic, and it's one of those things that as time goes on, Rick notwithstanding, to address the elephant in the room, but like on a solely on a music thing, I think it's one of those things where when I was first getting into hardcore, it was kind of, it wasn't a novelty, but it was kind of in its own lane. I think I got into hardcore like right after when they were kind of a more legitimate, and it kind of turned into the Rick show and like with different lineups and stuff. So it was never completely on my radar type of thing. Like I don't look at it as classic like other people do, but I think that in the years that have gone on, it's kind of become that more accepted of like a general, like, hey, this is really good canonized type of hardcore. So I really like it. And there are, some real hits on the demo right away, like Inside Knowledge and Burned by the Flames, all that stuff. Like it's cool. But honestly, I was kind of surprised by With One Intent because I'd never heard it before. And there's definitely a certain time in my hardcore life where if I had heard this demo, I probably would have been obsessed with it because it's really blown out. It's got these crazy doubled vocals where like it almost sounds like two different singers at the same time. I can't tell if it is or it isn't, but like kind of both saying the same things. It's not like dual vocals or anything. And it just sounds really heavy, chuggy, and blown out, like I said. And I really like that. Like, I like this type of heavy hardcore when it doesn't sound polished, when it sounds really chaotic and crazy, mostly from the production, not necessarily from the music, but just how, like, you could tell that they just did that themselves. So, like, while I kind of, well, I admit that, like, 25 to Life is maybe the better of these things, I really like the YOLO aspect of One Intent, so I'm going to go with that.
Oh, that's wild. We got to upset right away out the gate. I will say I had never heard the With One Intent before, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's 97, so it's coming a little later. So I think that, you know, maybe the genre is a little more hashed out. They have a lot more to like build off of, you know, compared to, you know, some of these are from like 90, 91, 92. We'll talk them coming up. But yeah, I thought that this was really good. And, you know, that Carlito's Way sample into like a hard as fuck riff and then hitting the fast part into a mosh. Like, yeah, this is what I want, you know, on this stuff. And this band does a really good job of bouncing between tempos, but all the songs are hard. The singer's voice is good. But dude, they're coming up against like the 25 to Life demo. And it's just like, you know, I like Separate Ways, but like side B is just two stone cold classics. You know, and you called out Burned by the Flames, right? So we're talking all four songs. Smacking You Up and Inside Knowledge are like two of the greatest songs, straight up. This has a pretty rough recording, you know, but everything will get re-recorded later. And like, dude, this is a 7-inch. Like, I don't know still, probably not, because it's been out of press for a long time. I don't know when the last time that Rick pressed this record, but this was like always easy to find everywhere. And like, you know, sometimes if you look up like the pressing info of like Havoc Records, like Felix puts it out there like, oh yeah, I pressed 5,000 with 7-inch and shit. It's like, oh my God, you know, like that Os Rotten 7-inch, I think sold like 5,000 or 10,000 copies or some shit. It's like, damn. And that was a record that was everywhere. And this was a record that was everywhere. And like, everyone had it. Like, even if you didn't love 25 to Life, you probably had like the demo 7-inch. And I just wonder, like, he must have sold thousands of copies of this just because, like, you know, 7-inches were cheap and it was available. Like, everyone plucked down their $3 and bought this thing. I can't go against it. It is undeniable. It is classic. I was surprised that this matchup was closer than I thought it would be, but I got to go 25 to Life. But we should say, fuck white power. Get that straight. You know, like, hey, you can have like everyone has like mental problems and stuff, and some are more severe than others, but there's no excuse for ever fucking going white power. That shit's fucking embarrassing. So it's a shame like how this band shook out, like that side of it, you know, but like you can't take away the classics, and like Inside Knowledge is an anti-racist song. So what the fuck? Okay, we got to phone a friend because we're split. We got to call Joe Hardcore. What's up?
Hello?
Joe, 25 to Life demo 1993 versus With One Intent demo 1997.
25 to Life.
All right, Joe picked 25 to Life. They are moving on. Kev, how do you feel? Your first pick got shot down.
I mean, I knew that was going to happen, especially when I got you and I got Joe. I mean, I was probably crazy with this one anyway, so I accept it. But I just want to. I'll listen to With One Intent more, but it's not wrong. I can't tell you it's wrong.
Hey, you gotta love Boston getting some love, so that's what's up. Okay, next matchup: 100 Demons. Their We Are Forsaken demo from 1998 going up against Stout out of Baltimore. Their demo also from 1998. Should say 100 Demons. Everyone knows Connecticut. This is a tough matchup, dude. What do you think, Kev?
So Stout is a band first that, like, I saw them a lot 10 or 15 years ago, but I never got as into them until like the last year or so. I've been listening to them a lot. Like they've kind of turned into an almost a favorite from the 2000s era. Like I like it way more than I thought. And the demo is cool. It's got some songs from the first LP on it. And like Stout is one of the scariest bands ever. Like the lyrics are just really crazy. Like they're terrifying. And, you know, you can hear that early and there's real uniqueness to the vocals, which is kind of their trademark throughout their entire history. And you could hear it right away. Unfortunately, they're going against 100 Demons, and not only is 100 Demons just one of the greatest hardcore bands of all time, but this demo is like pretty unbelievable because they come out of the gate with 4 of their stone cold classic songs, including We Are Forsaken, which like that's maybe the 100 Demons song, and it's first. And the whole thing, it sounds great. You can tell little differences between this and the finalized version of it, but still, like the songs are pretty fully formed right away. So, like, it's almost unfair for a band like Stout, where, like, I don't know, some of the songs are on their LP later, but this does sound like a demo. It's pretty unfair to go against this one, but like, it's got to be 100 Demons. It's really not even close. I think they're one of the favorites too for this whole thing, just because like you have 4 classic LP songs. I mean, you have Hard Luck Next, you have Infected. Like it's some of the best songs from In the Eyes of the Lord, and they came out with them immediately.
Yeah, and they sound great. Like,
and they sound great.
Yeah, like this recording is good. In the Eyes of the Lord is even like another step up, but it's like, God damn, this demo is so good. And all 4 songs are like classics. But the Stout is really good, dude. Dead Man Walking is so undeniable. And like that fast bounce into that slow fast part is so good. The singer's voice is great. I love the Sleep Bitch LP, you know, and it just got repressed. So that's sick. Got it on vinyl now. Yeah, it's hard because like the Stout demo is really good, but it went up against 100 Demons. And on this one, I believe everything was like, I went like A versus Z. You know what I mean? So that's why you got like 25 versus like with one intent, right? A number versus a W. And so here you got 100 Demons versus Stout and ST. So yeah, I mean, Stout they kind of got like the bad luck of the draw here going against this 100 Demons demo, but the Stout demo is really good, but I'm going 100 Demons too. So, all right, let's go on to the next matchup, All Out War. Now, on the Japanese bracket, I had to choose sometimes between what 7-inch to put in the tournament. All Out War is one of the bands on this that they had multiple demos, so it's hard to choose which one because, dude, they're all good. You know what I mean? Like, the All Out War demos are fucking sick, but a lot of it gets re-recorded, especially for like that first LP, which I believe came out in 97. So we're going to do their 1992 demo. I think it has a couple exclusive songs that didn't get re-recorded, where everything off the 94 demo, I believe, did get re-recorded. All right, All Out War goes up against Stigmata out of Troy, New York, their 1990 demo. Yeah, what do you think about the matchup, Kev?
Yeah, All Out War is classic. I mean, again, it opens with Destined to Burn, which is a classic All Out War song that I think that they still play. And then some other ones. Like it is really interesting going through these. Like you call out the songs that are not on the records and they're cool, but it's so hard to kind of parse that apart in my brain because I'm so used to so many of these songs like being the songs. So it's almost hard to focus on the other songs because some of these are real classics. So it's kind of hard for me to do that with this, but still it's All Out War. It is funny, not funny, but like it's interesting to see how like you can tell where All Out War is going and they're still pretty defined. Like from the beginning, you can hear the metal part and you can hear the death metal part and you can hear almost like early black metal part stuff in here too, but it's kind of like also that era where a lot of that stuff is kind of like not as defined yet with the black metal, especially in like kind of the interludes and sound clips and stuff that they use there. So I think that that's all really interesting to kind of hear like All Out War has an idea already from the very beginning and their career is just kind of like refining that idea and getting closer to it. So I think that's really cool. Stigmata is a band that I like the Hymns to an Unknown God record is pretty good. Like I like it generally all the way through, but like Save Us is like an all-time song. It's fucking awesome. And I'd never heard this demo before and I kind of hated it. Like I thought it was pretty goofy. I thought that it was pretty long. The vocals, like they're kind of too like rappy and like sing-alongy and like I think that this is a case. It's interesting to compare where All Out War knew what they were doing from the very beginning and we're just kind of getting there. And Stigmata, like it took them a little while to get to where they were going. And I think that this kind of shows those growing pains. So I'm going All Out War pretty easily on this one.
Yeah, same here. You know, it's funny you mentioned Destined to Burn. I think that's on both demos. Like, and which is so sick. 'Cause it's like they knew the song was sick. They're like, run it back. You know, like we got a classic. And All Out War is like one of those bands that I generally like really short songs, and they can keep my interest. Like their riffing is like that good, and the vocals are like that gnarly sounding in the best way. This is like a really good demo that I'd never heard before. I was like impressed that like they were so good in 92, you know, because like for those who are Crucified is like the album that I listened to the most. That's 1998, which is kind of like the tail end of the Victory stuff. Like I really had no idea that they were around this early, and especially if they were so fully formed here. Like these songs are great. And for like 92, like that is so fucking early. Like Firestorm is like 93, I think. You know what I mean? So like to have stuff like this, like before Firestorm, feels really weird, and it's kind of like mind blowing to me. On the other side, the Stigmata, I think that this demo is like tied up in the tail end of like the crossover thing, right? Which like really starts up in like 85 and takes off in 86 and then like goes on. And if you think about like the Leeway records, like those are kind of like late in the game because they got tied up in coming out so late, you know, but the Stigmata stuff, I believe, is like kind of just on the tail end of the crossover stuff. Like if you look at Thawing and Execution Style, like those are just crossover songs. I do think that that Trenchmouth song is pretty great. It has a good head bob part and a good chorus. And then also like the fast part when it kicks in on All or Nothing is very good. But like the All Out War is just like 5 songs in a row. And whether you want to fucking get violent to it or you just want to fucking nod your head to it, like it's like 5 bangers, like one after one after one after one. There's no doubt going All Out War on this. So they move on. Let's go to the next one. We are going to do Billy Club Sandwich out of New York City, their demo 1996. Unfortunately, they got a bad luck of the draw too. They're going up against Death Threat, the Last Days demo from 1998. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, I don't think I actually listened to Billy Club Sandwich demo before. They're a band that like I've seen and I think is cool, but I've never really dug in on. They're a band that's kind of had a little bit of a resurgence too over the past decade, where like a lot of this stuff was kind of on a certain, I don't know, side niche, you know, and now it's kind of more accepted as being kind of straightforward hardcore. But for whatever reason, I never really listened to it as much. I thought that the demo was really good. The songs are really hard sounding. It's interesting how many bands use sound clips. Like it feels like every band uses sound clips, which it's still obviously a trope that still happens now, but like it really was happening a lot. Yeah, so I think that it's good, but I mean, we talk about bands coming out fully formed. Death Threat immediately, again, one of their best songs that they still play with Brotherhood right away. And it's like, it's Brotherhood like hits everything. It's got really catchy verse to start. Then it's got like a fast, like 2-step mosh beat in the middle. And then like, it's got a real interesting, heavy like breakdown that's not exactly normal, and it kind of like keeps building, and then it goes right into like the sing-along mosh part at the end too. So it's like the perfect hardcore song. And then all the other songs on here are great too. Like it's just a real I do think it helps with a little bit of the bias for this, where like these songs are on Last Days pretty much as is. So like I've listened to them so many times in my life, but like that's the other testament. Like the songs are just so good. They're not like some of these other things where like, oh yeah, check out the demo. There's some kind of hidden All Out War songs or whatever. Like, no, these are all definitive, like real deal Death Threat songs. And they're one of the greatest bands of all time, easily of this style. Like there's not really any better. So it's got to be Death Threat, no doubt.
Yeah, I think that these songs are like just the last 3 songs on Last Days. Like it's the same recording and everything. Like they're just tacked on to the end of that. These are 3 of my favorite songs ever. And Brotherhood is like one of my favorite hardcore songs of all time. Like, it's absolutely perfect. You know, it's my favorite shit there is, right? Like the more hard style of like hardcore, but like fully rooted in the roots of hardcore. You know what I mean? It's like basically everything based off of Victim in Pain, you know what I mean, in like modern lens. It's like why I love Set It Off so much, and that first Blood for Blood record, and this is just, when it's done right, it's my favorite type of music there's ever been. You know, and like this is like a prime example of one of my favorite songs of all time. Just absolutely perfect. And the Billy Club Sandwich is good. I mean, we talk about Death Threat being fully formed and All Out War being fully formed, but Billy Club Sandwich is fully formed in like what they would be, you know, really. And this demo, I don't know if they re-record for the 7-inch and the split 7-inch they do in 97, but a lot of these songs end up on those two records. I think that the Mosh Call and Abuso is super hard, and really that whole song rules. Like mixing fast bounce and mosh, like that's kind of what you get on this stuff when they tuck in like all those tempos and you're bouncing between like a fast beat, a bounce beat, and a mosh beat. Like, I don't know, that's what I'm looking for. And the mosh on Narco Cabron is so fucking hard. Like coming out of like that riff to like where the hi-hat gets all like sizzly, you know what I mean? Like he's doing a little extra on the hi-hat is so sick. And then also the singer, like the way he bounces out of English and Spanish is super sick in the way that it's like so natural, you know, like he's not singing like a whole song in Spanish or a whole song in English or even like a definitive part. He's just like kind of coming in and out of it so naturally, and it's very unique and very cool. This is a band I like a lot. And Kev, you're right. Like they have gotten a lot more love recently. Like I think one of the LPs or maybe the only LP got re-released, and it's up on Spotify and shit. And with Beatdown getting so big after you know, Tsunami turned into like the biggest DIY band in the world, I think people got to look for the roots. And like, you know, we're going to talk Bulldoze in a minute, but like once you go beyond Bulldoze, it's kind of hard to piece together the history of like what people consider Beatdown. And like, this is an easy band to like grab onto. And so I think that's kind of why they're getting talked about a lot now. And also like they got good songs for the genre, you know, so there's that too. But hey, no one's beaten Death Threat, and it's going to be fucked up when this Death Threat demo goes up against the 100 Demons demo, because I see that coming in the future. So we'll see. But Death Threat moves on. All right, let's go back to Boston. We're putting the Blood for Blood Hurt You demo from 1995 up against the 1 Second Thought Queen style demo from 1997. 1 Second Thought out of New York City. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, 1 Second Thought I thought was cool. It sounded like Billy Club Sandwich, but to be honest, I didn't really spend as much time with it. It didn't really resonate as much. I think part of that is because it's going against Blood for Blood, who are just, you know, an all-time band. They come out of the gate. I won't say they're fully formed per se, because they went on to change things, but as they went on, their style evolved. But at the same time, like they're fully formed as in they're fucking awesome, and the songs are great right away, and they do have that definitive Blood for Blood sound, and it's hard in a different way than a lot of the New York bands, where like it's a little faster. You can kind of hear the street punk stuff in there. You can hear the sheer terror and stuff in there as well, obviously. But like it sounds, it just is a different type of, it's not just relying on the heavy parts. The heavy parts are just in how like the heavy comes from just it being hard. It's kind of hard to describe it otherwise. Like Hurt You is an all-time Blood for Blood song. Paper Gangster is probably the most well-known Blood for Blood song. I saw Terminator cover it a few weeks ago at Rebirth Fest. Yeah, it's just Blood for Blood is just an all-time great band, and they come out sounding like Blood for Blood. More Buddha than White Trash Rob, which, you know, some people think about White Trash Rob be sounding like Blood for Blood, but this is more just heavy style vocals. But yeah, it's another one that's kind of easy. I think on this round so far too, like all the stuff that's gone on, it's just kind of like, you know, my with 1 to 10 choice aside, like everything else is like, yeah, that's just the pretty canonized like stands out above everything else. And I continues on this one.
Yeah, but this is a good example of like why I wanted to do this, because I don't know when we would have talked about One Second Thought otherwise. And I do enjoy this style of music. And this demo sounds great. This is a good example of like a band going and getting a real professional recording for a demo in 1997, which is insane because like, you know, years later, like I'm still not even knowing how to get a good sounding record. You know what I mean? Like, but they were like a band that knew their sound and they knew how to go to a studio that probably didn't know like what they were going for, and they were able to get something that sounded great. There's a lot of good riffing on here, a lot of like, you know, head bopping tempos, and generally I hate like generic chugga chugga, but like that chugga chugga at the end of Head Check is like so smooth brain and short that like I absolutely love it. So I did enjoy this a lot, but like, you know, like other things, it's like Jigga going up against the Clay. You know what I mean? Like Blood for Blood, that first record is one of my favorite records ever. And a lot of the second record as well. I don't love the stuff when they go more street punk. In fact, I don't even know if I like it, but like this is like one of my favorite bands of all time, like based off of like the demo and the first two records. And they are fully formed in the way that they would be on like the first couple records. Like Paper Gangster is one of the most classic songs of all time, you know, of this genre. And like, goddamn, you know, it's so good. And the strain is like so hard and so good. And like that part on like the chaos in your face, like you gotta wait to get to that part, but like the payoff is like pretty big, dude. This thing is great and the recording's great, but like the first record, you know, 2 years later is like that thing sounds sweet. Blood for Blood takes this. They're going on to the next round. Okay, next matchup is Bulldoze. Their demo from 1993 going up against No Retreat from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Their 1995 demo called Familiarity Breeds Contempt. Again, an unfortunate matchup for No Retreat. But Kev, what do you think about this matchup?
So No Retreat, first of all, they're a PA hardcore band. They're from like the Pittsburgh area, other side of the state, but they're awesome. Like their record, Rise of the Underdogs, is like really cool. Like it's really heavy, hardcore stuff. This record is not as fully formed. Like the demo is just kind of like, you know, it sounds like an early PA hardcore record, which is kind of like a mix of normal 90s hardcore with a little bit of a harder edge. Kind of, you can picture guys with baggy pants holding their guitars up and kind of like chugging away. I think that it's cool as like an artifact, especially from Pennsylvania. But I was about to say with Blood for Blood, like there's levels to this shit. There's levels to this shit with Bulldoze. Like Bulldoze is one of the hardest bands of all time. They came out right away with The Truth, which when I was younger, it was always like Beatdown. That was the Bulldoze song. But now, like, I see The Truth covered so much. I feel like I've seen it covered like 10 times over the past 2 years. It's just kind of crazy how, again, like we talk about, Bulldoze was kind of always in its own lane. And now it's risen as, you know, the definitive beatdown band, but it's like a definitive classic hardcore band. It's just, there's not really a division between the subgenres anymore. It's just kind of generally accepted that Bulldoze is like the band like this. And all these songs are classic Bulldoze songs. And yeah, it's not really a contest here. It's easily Bulldoze.
Yeah, I think that No Retreat is notable to talk, and I just wanted to have them on here. They go on to be better. Like this style, it needs a good recording, and this has a pretty rough recording. And then also like the bass is totally clean and mixed too high, which just doesn't work. But like, again, like all these bands, like they got some hard riffs. They got some moments on this demo, but the later stuff is like where they come into their own. And, you know, they're going up against Bulldoze, one of the all-time great bands. And the other thing about this thing is like, it's very early. Like 1993 is early for like this style of like whatever you want to call it. But one of the things that makes this demo so special is like when they tuck in, like they still tuck in fast parts. They're like slow fast parts that are like very sick, like on Herb, you know, super sick. Also like Suffering has that very iconic like drum bass intro. And then, you know, Hypocrite with like the why don't you be yourself like lyrics, and also like Suffering has like be yourself lyrics, like very hardcore. Like that's like to the core of hardcore. Like this is hardcore music. Like it's a lane. Like if you're a dude that just likes Discharge, you know, and Chaos UK or whatever, like are you gonna like this? I don't know. But like this is still like a legit ass lane of hardcore, and like there are roots in this, and that's what makes it great. The Truth is an all-time classic, and I'm with you, Kev. Like, you know, they're known for nothing but a beatdown, but like I think The Truth, people latch onto it more for a couple reasons. Number one, Bulldoze has like longer songs. You know, this is 4 songs in 17 minutes, so like that is a little longer. But The Truth is like a pretty short, concise song. And also it just has that big sing along. And it's wild because like, you know, beatdown, modern beatdown in general, like basically sucks a dick, you know, and like, and so do like mosh videos and like the mosh accounts on Instagram. Like I just want to block them all. You know what I mean? Like, and the clips still get served up for me. Like, don't you want to watch this clip of like one dude doing kung fu in like a room of everyone standing against the walls and then like whatever the fucking crowd killing people? It's ironic that like here you have like the band that's considered the original beatdown band, and like they have some of the best sing-alongs there are, and people want to pack up and sing along. And it's like, I think that some of like the beatdown bands that are influenced and want to, you know, play beatdown music or whatever, like they missed like a giant component of what made like these bands special, right? Like Bulldoze, they have hooks. You want to sing along to it. You know, I know all the lyrics on The Truth, you know, and like Hypocrite, you're a two-faced sucker. Hypocrite, you're a stupid motherfucker. It's so good, dude. You know what I mean? And also think about 25 to Life. Like there's all these pylon parts, and like that was like an essential element in hardcore, which is like been lost sometimes on heavier music, is like the pylon and people going for the mic and having like that sing along where everyone is like coming together and singing the same words. Like that's essential. It's not all just about the mosh, although this has both, you know what I mean? Bulldoze, absolutely classic. They deserve all like the praise that they get nowadays, which is sick because like, you know, in the 90s on the West Coast, they were not a band that people talked about, you know, and now like they're fully hardcore canon. So that's great. Bulldoze wins. They move on. Okay, next matchup, Buried Alive, their 1998 demo, going up against Next Step Up out of Baltimore, Maryland, their passive-aggressive demo from 1992. And this is kind of a wild matchup, dude, because the Buried Alive demo is only 2 songs, it's 4 minutes long, and the Next Step Up demo is 8 songs, and it's 28 minutes. So, like, when we talk about, like, the demo being the backbone of this scene, like, you know, some bands, like they're treating their demo like they're full length. Like we got this many songs, we got a 30-minute set list, we're recording it all and we're putting it out. Like these are our songs, and I respect that. This is a nice long demo, but the matchup is a little strange in that way. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, Next Step Up is a band that's always been kind of a blind spot for me. Like I've never really dug in. The demo I think is just kind of it's. You know, I absolutely respect coming out of the gate with a long demo, but at the same time, like it's just kind of a little too long, and it all kind of blends together for me. It does. I do hear like sheer terror in it. I hear neglect in it, but like it didn't really resonate too much with me. Whereas Buried Alive, we've discussed. Buried Alive is one of my favorite bands of all time. They are the perfect heavy hardcore band for me. They're exactly what you're talking about, where it's got the fast parts, it's got the really distinctive heavy parts, it's got the sing-along parts. And the demo, first, it's 2 of their best songs. It's Worthless and Kill Their Past right away. So those are like, maybe even to some would be like the 2 Buried Alive songs. Right away, they came out with 2 of their hits. And then also like the LP, Death of Your Perfect World, it sounds really big and clean and really well produced. And these are kind of the opposite, where the guitars are really fuzzy and blown out, and vocals are really strained sounding in a good way. And they just all sound really just chaotic and crazy. It's a little unfair, again, because these are 2 songs that went on to be 2 definitive songs from their LP. But I do think that the demo sounds distinctive enough compared to that LP, where this one is pretty easy for me. Again, it's going to be Buried Alive.
Yeah, the Next Step Up is really good. Although, like I'm a pretty short attention span dude. So like, it's hard for me to make it to the end, but it starts out strong. Like Bloodstained Eyes is sick, dude. It's very catchy. It's like a plethora of bounce parts, and that move it in the mosh part and then switching back and forth between like the hi-hat and the ride is super sick. And then In Our World doing the scissor beat into a bounce mosh. It's sick, dude. Like, again, if you like bounce with riffing on top of it, like this is like a band that does it very well. But again, it's going up against Buried Alive. Like Death of Your Perfect World is a great LP. This is 2 songs that make it on there. Although we should say that the Next Step Up, like about half of these songs make it onto their LP that comes out in 93, I believe. So that's kind of a wash of like what gets reused or not. But like, yeah, these Buried Alive songs, both of them are great. They're classic. I can't go against it. Like it's fast, hard, short. If you got that, that's like my favorite shit in the world. So like it's untouchable. Buried Alive, 2 in the next round. Okay. Final matchup of the night. Clubber Lang out of New Jersey. Their Varsity Violence demo from 1997 is going up against Neglect out of Long Island, New York. Their demo titled 91 to 92 that I believe came out in 92. And this is another long one, 5 songs, 19 minutes. The Clubber Lang is 4 songs, 13 minutes. Neglect is really turned into like an awesome cult band. I think I don't think that's derogatory to say it. The reason why I say that is because like if you talk to someone and they're a Neglect fan, they are a Neglect fan. They swear by the band. You know what I mean? And like dude has super negative lyrics. They're a pretty entertaining band to listen to. I enjoy them. They put out a discography pretty recently, in the last 10 years at least. That's relatively easy to get. I listen to it relatively regularly, like probably every other month, and I enjoy like just putting it on and jamming it. So, and I think that they like fit in. They live in like kind of that post Sheer Terror, pre Blood for Blood world. Like they're kind of like pulling a lot from Sheer Terror the same way that Blood for Blood would, but like they're kind of pulling from some different elements of it. I mean, that White Trash Rob heard like Death Explorer and loved it. It's like so slow and riffy and mean. The song Horror Struck is super catchy. The thing I want to talk about it, one thing that I want to mention about it is there's a website called Rate Your Music. I don't know. It's kind of like a bootleg Discogs or some shit. But like it was funny reading the tags for this demo. Here they are. Death, crime, urban, nihilistic, hateful, sarcastic, suicide, aggressive, pessimistic, angry. And I think this band, they would love all of that. So, yeah. But the Clubber Lang, I have like a lot of sentimental attachment to this. I used to talk to Cooper from this band on AOL, like back in the late 90s, and I enjoyed talking to him a lot. And he sent me this demo. Actually, I got the Death Threat demo back when it came out too, because I used to talk to Larry, and he sent that to me also. So I got both these when they came out, and I listened to them all the time. I wish I still had them both. I don't. But yeah, this Clubber Lang demo, again, fast, hard, short. Like that first song, Execution Style, to me is just like a perfect song. It's catchy too. And then like there's that little bridge part at the end where they work in the Rocky sample. It's so good. And the rest of the demo kind of like bounces between mid-tempo and mosh, like a lot of this stuff does. But really that intro is an all-timer into Execution Style. Like that 1-2 punch is out of this world. And yeah, I'll go first this time, Kev. I'm taking Clubber Lang. What do you think?
So Neglect is a band I love. It's funny, the stuff that I kind of gave as negatives for Next Step Up, that's what Neglect is. But for generally, it's what works for me. The songs are really catchy because the lyrics are just so crazy and a bit unique. They are nihilistic, like that tag said. So yeah, I love Neglect. I do find their discography, even as somebody who likes them, a bit daunting just because there's so many songs and they're all pretty long. And it's kind of, the idea of the discography CD can be discussed in long form of just if it helped bands or if it hurts things. And I think in the case of Neglect, it almost hurts things in a way where like there's so much and it's so dense that it's kind of hard to parse it apart. But generally, I do think that Neglect is a great band and I do love them a lot. Clubber Lang, though, They are a great kind of unheralded semi-local legends. I think that they're from South Jersey, definitely New Jersey, but I believe South Jersey. Before my time, but they definitely played Philadelphia quite a lot. Like Joe has talked about them a lot, seeing like, you know, how often they play and seeing them and stuff. And people from the band are still around and go to shows, at least some of them. So like, yeah, they're an awesome band. They are really heavy, kind of scary type of like the songs just kind of sound scary and they sound really rough and they sound, you know, for lack of a better word, tough, right? And they just sound awesome and distinctive. They're a little bit raw, like they feel like they're going to fall apart and that they almost like overextend musically just a little bit. And I think that really works for them. The song Execution Style is awesome. You know, I think that's one of the definitive Clubber Lang songs. My only negative is that the demo is called Varsity Violence, and the song Varsity Violence, which is easily the best Clubber Lang song, is not on here. So, you know, why are you going to do the demo and call it that? Maybe they just liked the name of the demo so much that they just knew that they had to make a full song off of it. But the intro to Varsity Violence, again, it's not on this, but like I get that in my head every day. Like literally, that is just playing in my like is just in my head all the time. So yeah, I'm gonna go Clubber Lang here. Got to put respect on the semi-local legends.
All right, quick recap. Gastunk took out Aburadako. Guy took out Typhus. The Stalin took out Gudon. Confuse took out Guys. Crow advanced against Deadless Muss. Disarray beat Mobs. And then Zhao beat Freedom. And the Clay moved on against Jigga. That wraps up the Japanese one. Moving on to the hard 90s demo. 25 to Life moved on over with One Intent. 100 Demons moved on over Stout. All Out War moved on over Stigmata. Death Threat moved on over Billy Club Sandwich. Blood for Blood moved on over One Second Thought. Bulldoze moved on over No Retreat. Buried Alive moved on over Next Step Up. And Clubber Lang moved on over Neglect. That does it, dude. So that is the first half of both of these. We will do the second half of the Japanese on the next segment episode coming up in 2 weeks. And then we will finish this hard one a month from there. And we will go on out through the end of the year. We'll see what we do next, dude. This was kind of fun bracketing out. I did make a 64 band bracket or a 64 record bracket if we wanted to do mainland Europe. That would be a daunting one to do. But like, if we're talking about shit that we have trouble talking about, like that would give us an excuse. What are your overall thoughts, Kev, now that we got half of this done?
I feel good. You know, I'm excited to kind of dig into some of these other ones, especially the Japanese side, because there's a lot of stuff that I haven't heard. And there's definitely heavy hitters on the other one too. So I'm excited. I'm feeling good about this so far. I think that it's been kind of a real fun exercise.
Yeah, everyone, I hope you enjoyed it because I love diving deep on this stuff. And, you know, we're hitting some super specific shit. And I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. Kev, where can people find you?
Hit me up on Instagram, Not Fair to Flare, and check out Fall Salvation on Instagram, Fall Salvation HC.
Everyone get at me, 185 miles south at gmail.com. Also, we're on Substack and all of the socials, 185 miles south. We love you all. We'll talk to you again next Monday on Patreon.
Bullshit! With more guilt than you are, you take things up and too far, believing in drunk and shit. In your feet, not to understand. Not a short rest, I'm going to mess and all the rest. Supposing you will make rest until they remember you're a bullshit fake. Paper gangsta, you ain't nothing but an image and a liar. A bullshit fake. Paper gangsta, softcore motherfucker. Could it be you're really not from the streets? Could it be you saw it?